Well, the cruise ship at the center of a deadly hantavirus outbreak is still at sea. As Jeff Paul reports today, several sick passengers were evacuated for medical treatment.
3 passengers suspected of having hantavirus were medically evacuated from the Dutch-based cruise ship MV Hondias on Wednesday. The World Health Organization says the patients, including a crew member, are on their way to the Netherlands for treatment. At the moment, 3 people have been killed.
It breaks down blood vessels and it breaks down and everything starts to kind of flood and crash in your system.
The vessel is now expected to head to Spain's Canary Islands, though the regional governor there is opposed.
A specialist doctor will also arrive to the country to assist the passengers on board the ship. After the evacuation process is concluded, the cruise ship should resume its journey safely.
The virus is typically spread through contact with rodents, but the WHO confirms the strain identified among passengers is an uncommon one that can be transmitted from human to human.
It's not just the people who are on the ship that, of course, we are concerned about. We're also working with authorities for anyone that has left the boat.
On Wednesday, Swiss authorities say a man who returned to Switzerland after being a passenger on the ship was being treated for the virus. Still, public health officials say there is a low threat to the public.
At this point, we've identified it, you've quarantined everyone, and typically you have to be in really close contact with somebody, intimate contact, to really pick it up person to person.
Spain's health minister says all passengers are still on board are currently asymptomatic.